For our next set of notes, we'll be doing energy conversions, but now specifically photosynthesis. So remember, the word convert means to change. So we're going to be taking photo, which is light. So we're taking light energy, or something called solar energy, and we're converting it into chemical energy, which is the bonds in glucose. So photosynthesis, here is our chemical reaction. Remember, an arrow represents a process in science. So you just follow it along. Here are my reactants on the left side. So that's what goes into my chemical reaction. It's what starts the reaction. And then the stuff on the right side are my products, and they are what is produced or made from the chemical reaction. So photosynthesis, the word photo means light. So question number 1, what does photo mean? Define photo. Sorry about that. It means light. And then question 2, it says, what is synthesis? And that word to synthesize means to make or to build. Question 2, synthesis means to make. So put it all together. Number 3, what's photosynthesis? It's to make food, specifically glucose, which is chemical energy. And it makes that from light. Photosynthesis, it makes something using light. So all eukaryotic cells, remember eukaryotic, U means true, karyo means kernel, which is the nucleus. So eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, and they have membrane-bound organelles, which makes them bigger and more complex. So they have mitochondria. And remember the mitochondria from last time? Those are cellular, that's the cellular respiration. They convert energy from the food into usable ATP. However, plants and other autotrophic organisms make their own food because they can do something called photosynthesis. They can take light and make glucose from it. So they don't have to eat like we do. They can make their own food. So question 4, what does it mean for cells to be autotrophic? That means they make their own food. Auto means self. So they are self-reliant. They can make their own food. And then question 5, it says, what process allows plants to make their own food? And you want to write photosynthesis, which is right here in the green. Photosynthesis. Okay, so on question 5, where that gray box is, you wrote photosynthesis. I just want you to go ahead and write the left side of the arrow is the reactants. So just go ahead and jot down reactants on that side. And everything to the right side of the arrow is the products. Okay. So question 6, what substances are the reactants, raw materials needed for plants to do photosynthesis? So what are the reactants? Well, the reactants for photosynthesis, think about what do plants need to grow? Well, they need water, H2O, water, agua. They also need carbon dioxide, CO2. And they need energy, and specifically it's light. So it's solar energy, it's light energy. So question 6, what substances are needed to start the reaction? Who are the reactants? That's water and carbon dioxide. And also make sure you write light energy. And then question 7, it says, what substances are the products of plants performing photosynthesis? So they're asking you, what did photosynthesis produce? Why do we do it? Well, plants, we don't do photosynthesis, but plants do it because they make their own food. So a product of photosynthesis is glucose, which is sugar, which is a carbohydrate. C6H12O6, that's glucose. We know it's a sugar, it ends in OSE. And then the other thing that photosynthesis makes is oxygen, so O2. So question 7, what are the products? And it's right there in yellow. It's glucose, which is a sugar, and oxygen gas. So we need plants. Plants make food for us, and they make the oxygen gas that we need to breathe. So regardless if you eat plants or not, the animal that you eat, if you eat meat, if you eat steak, that cow that you ate the grass. So we're getting our glucose from plants. And then the last question from this slide is question 8. It says, which product of photosynthesis is actually the food source? And the food source is glucose, which is the sugar, C6H12O6. That's the food molecule that's created by photosynthesis, glucose. Remember, glucose is a ring structure. It can be a pentagon or a hexagon, but look for rings that have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and you're looking at a carbohydrate. All right, so here's the reaction for photosynthesis again. Remember, energy, it's light energy, it's solar energy. And now it's on the reactant side. Remember last class we looked at cellular respiration and the energy was being released because we were making ATP in cellular respiration. So photosynthesis now, the energy is on the reactant side, not the product side. It's going in. So think of a sponge. Sponge absorb water. Okay, so photosynthesis, the leaves are absorbing the sunlight. So what does it mean when energy is on the reactant side, which is what question 9 is asking you? It means that the energy is being absorbed. The energy is being absorbed. The leaf is absorbing the sunlight, the solar energy. Photosynthesis absorbs energy so plants can make their food. Question 10, plants absorb energy from what source? And you want to say the ultimate source of energy, the sun. So question 10, plants absorb energy from what source? And you want to say the sun. So again, energy is absorbed by plants. It was on the reactant side of the equation. So photosynthesis, the energy, the light, the sun is being absorbed into the leaves of the plant. It's going into the chlorophyll, into the chloroplast, and it's converting that sun into chemical energy. So photo means light. So question 11, plants convert solar energy into what type of energy? And I want you to write chemical. So solar energy, the light from the sun, is converted into chemical energy. That's question 11. What does chemical energy, remember last time I told you that's stored energy. So this chemical energy is stored energy in the glucose bonds. So until we need it, we're just storing it away, chemical energy. And then question number 12, what does the prefix photo mean? Remember, photo means light. You can't take a photograph unless your lens is taking in light. Photo means light. So the energy in sugar made by glucose is stored in the chemical bonds. So remember, glucose is C6H12O6. And remember that they are ring structures. So glucose kind of looks like that. It's just a monosaccharide, which is a one sugar. And it's a ring shape. So that the bonds that are holding that ring shape together is how we're storing our energy. So the energy from the sun is now stored in the chemical bonds of sugar. So photosynthesis just converted light energy, which is called solar energy, and converted it into chemical bonds because we made sugar. So we call that chemical energy. Because of this, we say that plants and other photosynthetic organisms convert solar energy into chemical energy. So guys, this is a star question. Please star question 11. You have to know that photosynthesis converts solar energy into chemical energy. You also need to be aware of what products are made from photosynthesis. So plants make sugar, and then they also make the gas that we breathe in, which is oxygen. But in order to do this, they need light, they need carbon dioxide, which is the gas that we exhale, and they need water. And they're going to take all that and they're going to make glucose, and they store the energy in a chemical bond. Okay, so here's my leaf. Sunlight's going in, water's going in, carbon dioxide's going in, and then it's going to make some oxygen and it's going to make sugar. And then we're going to eat that plant and get that sugar, or we're going to eat an animal that has ate the plant. So question 13, what energy conversion occurs inside of plant cells? And you want to say photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Remember, it is the title of your notes. So if you don't know how to spell it, look at the top of your note page. Chloroplasts are the organelle in plants which are responsible for absorbing the light and performing photosynthesis. So if you aren't aware, that prefix chlor means green. And inside of the chloroplast are things called chlorophyll. And again, chloral means green, and that ending "phill," it means leaf. So chlorophyll, it just means green leaf. So because it has chlorophyll and chloroplast, that's what makes a plant green. So they're the organelle that's responsible for absorbing light, solar energy, and making sugar, and that's called photosynthesis. And here's a picture of a chloroplast right here. Remember, it's a membrane-bound organelle, so it has its own membrane. And inside are these stacks of coins. That's what they look like, coins. But they're little discs, and they're called the grana, or the granum is plural for it. And inside of those discs, the thylakoids, that's where actually the photosynthesis happens. Okay, so question number 14, which organelle absorbs light and performs photosynthesis? And you want to say the chloroplast. Remember, we don't have chloroplast. We are not green. We do not do photosynthesis. We can't make our own food. We have to eat food. The chloroplasts are full of chlorophyll. Remember, chlor, green, fill, leaf. So they're filled with these green leaf molecules. This molecule absorbs energy, the light, that will be used to make the chemical energy, which is the bonds of glucose, sugar, carbohydrate, monosaccharide. Remember, all those words mean sugar. So question 15, what molecule actually absorbs light inside of the chloroplast? And you want to write chlorophyll. So here is a picture of the chlorophyll, which you don't have to draw. So if you looked at your vocabulary reference sheet, which should be in the back of your notebook, you would see the prefix chloral, and it would tell you that it means green. So chloral is used a lot in plants because, again, because plants have chloroplast and chlorophyll, that's what makes the plant green. It's what makes those cells green. So question 16, why is chloral used for naming the molecule and the organelle, which is the chloroplast and the chlorophyll? And you want to write because it means green. I know the next part of your note says draw a chloroplast, but we already had passed that slide, so I'll draw it again for you on the board. But if you remember what it looks like with the membrane and the stacks of discs, you can go ahead and draw it again. But I'll draw it on the board too, just in case you don't remember. So just look at the whiteboard and see if you see the drawing, and then draw this for question 17. Question 18, seeds and very young plants need oxygen to grow and not carbon dioxide. Why is this? Remember, plants need carbon dioxide and water and light, but they're saying seeds and very young plants don't. So if we read this here, seeds and very young plants need oxygen to grow and not carbon dioxide. So seeds need oxygen to perform cellular respiration, to use the food energy stored in the seeds by their parents. They can't perform photosynthesis until they are large enough and have their own leaves. Because remember, photosynthesis happens in the leaves, not in the stem or the roots, but the actual green leafy part. So if they have no leaves, they can't do photosynthesis yet. So they have to do something called cellular respiration, which is what we talked about last class, where in the mitochondria, they're going to take the food that they already have stored in their leaves, and they're going to convert it into the usable form of energy, which is ATP. So for 18, you want to say, why is this? And say, they don't have leaves, so they can't perform photosynthesis. You might just also want to mention that they have to use the food stored in their seeds to do cellular respiration. If you can shorten it, that's great. So I went and added some words before we started chemosynthesis. The word biotic has the word bio in it, and I hope all of you know that the word bio means living. When you study biology, biology is the study of, bio means living, so biotic would be a living factor. So you can talk about plants and people and animals and whatever. Anything that's living is considered a biotic factor. Abiotic, if you take off the word a and look it up in your reference sheet, a means not, bio means living. So abiotic would mean not living. So those things in the ecosystem that would be abiotic would be like the minerals, the wind, the air, the sun. So those things are not living. So for 19, biotic, living, and then 20, abiotic, not living. Okay, so deep in the ocean, there is no light. So photosynthesis can't occur. There's no light to convert. But in the 1970s, scientists found entire food webs living near underwater hydrothermal vents, which spew minerals and provide heat. So the plants and things that live deep in the ocean where there's no water, they can convert chemicals that they find deep in these hydrothermal vents to survive. And that's called chemosynthesis. So guys, if you don't know what hydro means, you need to remember hydro means water. And then thermal means temperature. So these water vents are hot. They're hot vents of water. And they come out of these chutes in the ground and they spew minerals and give heat to these creatures that live near them, plants. So what abiotic factor is not found at great ocean depths? And that's 21. You want to say light, because light is a not living. It's a non-living factor, so it's abiotic. And then question 22, what do hydrothermal vents provide? Remember, it's water, it's hot water, thermo, hot, heat, temperature, hydro, water. They're going to provide these organisms with minerals and heat. They're going to give them the nutrients, minerals, and heat. Scientists found bacteria that were performing chemosynthesis by obtaining energy from inorganic compounds. Remember, organic means carbon, hydrogen bonds. So if it's inorganic, it does not have carbon. So it's obtaining energy from inorganic compounds like hydrogen sulfide, H2S, instead of light. So notice how H2S has no carbon-hydrogen bonds, therefore it is not organic. So question 23, what organisms perform chemosynthesis? And I want you to write bacteria. Remember, the word synthesis means to make. So they're going to make what food they need by using the chemicals found in these hydrothermal vents. So question 24, where does the energy needed to perform chemosynthesis come from? And they're getting it from inorganic compounds instead of light, so inorganic compounds. And you would give yourself the example hydrogen sulfide. And that's coming from those hot water vents. So these bacteria use this energy and the CO2 to produce the organic compounds needed in the ecosystem. Because remember, they need those carbon-hydrogen bonds. They need to make the food. They need to make glucose, which has carbon-hydrogen-oxygen bonds. Okay, so chemosynthesis, they're making things out of inorganic compounds, those minerals and the heat that these hot water vents give off. So here's bacteria in this food web, and they are the producer. They're taking place of the plants on land. And they're getting all of their energy from the hydrogen sulfide, H2S, because it's being spewed out of these hot water vents, the hydrothermal vents. Okay, so the H2S would kind of be like the sunlight in other food webs. And then the plants would be the producer, and now the bacteria is filling that niche, that role of producer. And now other organisms deep in the ocean, like yellow mussels and white clams and tube worms, they can get the energy they need by feeding on the bacteria. So these chemosynthetic bacteria are the producers in the deep underwater ecosystem where no sunlight is available. And they live symbiotically inside of larger animals like tube worms, which are shown to the right. So these are our tube worms, and then these are our bacteria up at the top. Okay, so these bacteria live symbiotically with these tube worms. And that word symbiotic means that they have a mutual agreement that they're living together happily. Both of them are providing the other with something else. The bacteria are giving food to the tube worms, and the tube worms, the tube worms are getting the food from the bacteria, and the bacteria have a place to live. So they're both pretty happy. That's a symbiotic relationship. So question 25, what role do chemosynthetic bacteria fill? You want to say they're the producers of the food web. You can write producers. I don't remember if I answered 24, but if we didn't, where does the energy needed to perform chemosynthesis come from? And you should have said those hot water vents. And then question 26, what larger animals often host these bacteria? And you want to say these tube worms. Don't forget the word symbiotic. That's going to be another topic when we talk about mutualism. Okay, from here I want you to go on Google Classroom, and there was another link listed about Quizlet. I want you to practice those terms on Quizlet. These are the terms you're going to see this unit. I gave you a paper last class with all of the unit terms. I want you to go ahead and jot down some key words or phrases that will help you remember what the word means. If you already know what the word means, and I mean 100% know, then you don't have to write anything. But if you are kind of iffy and you're not sure or don't know the word at all, you have to write a phrase or a word or something that helps you jog your memory to help you remember these terms. You are going to get a vocab test over it, so you have to know these words. So go to Quizlet, look at the words, and jot down something to help you remember it.